All right, everybody. Hey, welcome to the show. Now, normally you would see me doing my um, acting up or any of the film industry, but today I want to actually do something I really have near and dear to my heart because I have had a family member or two deal with this. And just so you know, February 4th is National Donor Donation Day or Organ Donation Day. And so I just want to talk about this. And by the way, if you have any comments or anything you want to make or questions you have during the broadcast, you certainly can type them in. I will see them. I'll put them up and we'll discuss them. Again, this issue is a very close to my heart because I actually technically have four brothers, and one of them passed away from basically liver failure and had to be on dialysis ongoingly for many, many years. So I understand that. And then also, just in general, I mean, I know society and our world is really kind of plagued with a lot of liver disease and fatty liver and just different things happening because of perhaps what we eat or what we take in or just, genetically. So it's really one of those subjects that I think people talk about it, but I don't think they really talk about it a lot. And of course, some of the places you can go, and I will put this on the screen later on, but livingliver.org has some great facts. And here's a couple I want to pass before we get into our two guests, which I'm very excited by having them on because one of them I've known for 100 years, and he looks great, and I'm excited to have him back on, Aaron Poltz. In any case, so some of the facts are on liver donations. There's really only about 9,400 living liver donated or donation folks that has been performed on in the US since the procedure started 30 years ago. It's not a lot, in my opinion. In 2024, there are 600 living liver transplants. By comparison, there were more than 600,000 live kidney transplants in the same year. So there's a lot to talk about here. And look, if you're watching this show, please join in because the conversations and the community, the unity of this subject is extremely important to be able to push it forward and understand it. So without further ado, I'm going to bring in my two guests, which I'm very excited about, Aaron Poltz, who's a very dear friend of mine, and Justin Riddle, who is going to be now a very good friend of mine. And I'm going to bring these guys in. Here it is. Gentlemen, welcome to the show. Yeah.
Having it.
Yeah. And Justin, welcome. Now, I know that by the look of you, you're not at a pit crew on a Indy 500 race with all that stuff in back of you. You're actually in the hospital because, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe you two have a little bit more in common than you did maybe a week or two ago. Aaron, can you elaborate on that?
Certainly. Well, one thing we had in common before this was we were at the Air Force Academy together, but we didn't really know each other. So that's some of us very in common. But 4 weeks ago, just one day over 4 weeks ago, we had surgery together because I donated the right lobe of my liver to Justin.
Wow. Now, I have to ask you, Justin, before you chime in, let's clarify for people because they're probably like, well, and I was as well, like, what does that mean? I know we don't have two livers, right? We do. I don't know enough about anatomy to be able to give you anybody out here an educated opinion. But I will say, when you say the right lobe, what does that mean? And how does that work? Does it, when you are transplanted and it grows into more? Help us out with that part.
So, hey, I'm Justin. Thanks for having us. The liver does have different segments and lobes. And in most cases, the right lobe is the largest. So they harvest the right lobe out of the donor. They remove my liver. They put the right lobe back in. And in the donor, the remaining left level over about 2 months will regrow to about the same size that his original liver was. So the liver and skin are the only organs that really regenerate. And in me, the right lobe will increase in size also to really as much as my body needs. So it'll go back to approximately the same volume.
Well, I'm gonna input this in is that the liver is also one of the organs that can, you can go, how do I say this? You can be really bad to your liver, and then you can be really good to it, and you can regenerate and clean it. And again, I talk about fatty liver and all the different diseases that can happen with your liver. And I personally had an issue and I have my naturopathic naturopathic doctor, and she's like, "Well, you're congested because of this, that, and the other thing. Because if those things don't flow, then you wind up in a situation, correct?"
Correct. The liver will regenerate itself. So things can be improved by diet, particularly fatty liver or alcohol and drug abuse. Those things, in many cases, reverse the ultimate problem that leads to transplant in many diseases is eventually the liver get encumbered by scar.
Right.
And that's cirrhosis. So what cirrhosis sets in, it physically blocks the biofilm flowing and it blocks blood flow in the entire area. Once it hits cirrhosis, it's not reversible regardless of the cause. And that's ultimately what happened to me in my disease.
Right. So how did you two come about this? You're like walking down the street one day and you see each other and go, "Oh, weren't we?" Give us a little background on this. Because, by the way, Aaron, and I'm sure that Justin is thankful to you every moment of his life now. And I don't mean that to sound as grandiose as it does, but you are someone that said, "Yeah, you know what? I don't need all of it. I'm going to help you out." How did you come about that?
Sure. So it's kind of a cool story, and it's just one of those things where everything kind of came together to make this happen. We were on vacation, so it was over Labor Day weekend, and I'm not a guy who's really on Facebook or social media, hardly ever anymore. And I just happened to look at Facebook, and Justin has made a post in our Air Force Academy 1997 graduate class group. And he posted about how he has PSC, which I'll let you get more into, and that he was in need of a live liver transplant, and that he was just casting a wider net. So I'm kind of paraphrasing what he wrote, looking to see if there were any additional people that might be willing to be a donor. I read that, and I immediately started filling out the paperwork, the Georgetown MedStar. And I was really focused on it because I'm filling it out on my phone, putting my whole medical history in there. It's kind of cumbersome to do it on a phone. And my wife Rachta, looks over and says, "Hey, could you go help Teddy? Because I have a 6-year-old and an 8-year-old boys. Can you help him rush his piece?" And I said, "No, I can't. I'm in the middle.
I'll lose it."
Well, some forms I was not about to lose that. And so then I filled it out. I told her what I was filling out. And I said, "Hey, what do you think about that?" And she said, "Well, if you can save his life, you should do it." And it's one of these things where I've told a lot of people, like, I read that and then I just felt compelled, and there was no second thought at all. I just wanted to do it.
Well, let me throw this out. Let me just throw this out because there is an emotional and a mental, obviously there's a physical as well. But I know Rachna because we've done a show together for almost 7 years or something. So I know, by the way, that question to her, and she's an advocate. She deals in that. So I wouldn't expect anything different from your wife, and which is compassion and understanding. But that's got to be something difficult to bring to your significant other, let alone yourself, and then bringing it to, of course, Justin. How did that meeting go? First of all, they obviously go, they do what? Do they biopsy your liver? Do they just look at your blood? How do they get to the point where they go, "Guess what? You're a match"?
Sure. So the coordinator. So they have a coordinator for the donor and they have a coordinator for the recipient. and they keep them separate. It's kind of like a firewall between there because they want to make sure first of all, there's no conflicts of interest. And nobody is getting pressured to donate. No one is getting paid to donate because those are, as you can imagine, right? I mean, morally, though, would not be a good situation and also not legal from what I understand. But in this case, I didn't know Justin, but I knew he went to the Air Force Academy. I knew he flew C-17s, which is what the airplane I flew. I'd heard that he was a great guy, and that's all I needed to know. And the coordinator reached out to me probably, I want to say 2 weeks after I submitted the paperwork. And she said, hey, you are the first person we've selected to be evaluated. How do you feel about that? And I was frankly very excited because I had pumped myself up to do this and I wanted it to happen. And yes. And so here's how it works. And it's probably very similar for any program if someone is thinking of doing this. The first thing that happens is either in person or most likely virtual. In case for me, it was virtual. Social worker calls and they talk through like, what are the reasons that I'm doing it? And they're trying to figure out like,
if you're real.
Am I real, right? What's my mental state?
Yeah, there you go.
Financial, would we be okay? Do I have someone to help take care of me? Because no one can do this by themselves. And basically just gauge all that. And then the next step after passing that hurdle is getting blood tests, CAT scan, MRI of the liver, echocardiogram, and EKG, and a chest x-ray. So
basically you have a very clean bill of health going into this. I mean, so in essence, there's a benefit to this in another way, along with being a wonderful person.
I knew that I was either going to be selected, which is what I was hoping for, or they were going to find something very wrong with me that I never would have found before, so we could at least take care of it. So either way, it was a win, right?
It is a win. Can I skip right to asking Justin, so what you've heard Aaron talk about, which I'm sure you all have sat together and had these conversations, but what was your initial, did they kind of bring in a portfolio and go, which liver looks the best? And any, mini, money, mo, what's the process for you? And how did it feel when you finally found out that you found someone? Because a lot of times you hear the stories and movies and really in the news going, they're waiting for a donor. And there's so much emotion tied to it. The news covers it and goes, you've got this heart and blah, blah. So what happened for you in this process?
So without going on too much of a tangent, because primary sclerosing cholangitis has unique issues associated with liver transplant. The bottom line was my doctor said, it's time for a transplant, but you're really going to need a living donor. That's your realistic option. So start looking for a donor. So I initially started asking inner circle or friends and family. And eventually friends do what friends do. They see a friend in me and they start spreading the word. So when the word started getting out, and I said, if there's something this needs to come me. So that's why I posted on the Air Force Academy that page. Because a lot of my classmates were really interested in helping. I had friends and family, and I assumed that they were going to start testing friends and family, or immediate family first. But what they do is they look over really detailed the questionnaires that people submit, and the surgeon and the transplant coordinator will select one person at a time to test. So there is no, hey, here's your 5 best options, which one do you want? They pick one, and they only inform me that we are testing somebody. They don't let me know who it was. So initially, when I found out they were testing somebody, I assumed it would be my brother or brother-in-law or something like that. And when they always said no, I was kind of scratching my head saying, who could it be? And that's when Aaron stepped up, and it really surprised me that, oh wow, I didn't see that in a curveball coming up. So it really surprised me to see Aaron is number 1 on the list. And then fortunately, he's got a great bill of health. Yeah. And he came as a match, so I was not expecting any way you like it.
Well, one thing that comes to my mind when you talk about who they would go after first, I would actually think to myself that family members might not be the first people they'd go after because in some ways, you want someone, I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, you want someone that's not really that closely connected to you because there's a certain bit of what if, and you're giving that part of your body. I mean, we know family dynamics. If your families are anything like my families, I can tell you right now, I certainly don't want my mother-in-law's liver. But the point I'm trying to make is that that's a very difficult process. But to find out that it was him, did then you have an actual physical meeting, or they just went, you know what, we'll call you when it's over and then you guys can talk? Or how did that go?
Again, not the way I expected. Real quick though, the family connection versus not. Some organs require a better genetic match than others. Kidneys are a little bit more particular. Livers are a little bit more accepting. So they don't necessarily have the same constraints making for liver for kidneys. But going back to how I found out, I initially didn't know he was a match. I saw a random appointment in my medical profile online showing some search for Tom. I'm like, what is this all about? And then it was later that day that Aaron called me and shared the news. So I found out from Aaron.
Wow. Okay. So here's the thing that strikes me. When did this process actually start where, Aaron, you went, I'm going to fill this out? How long ago?
So that was over Labor Day weekend. So beginning of September. And then I got my blood testing and early October, I think. And like I was saying, I mean, they test for everything, which is pretty amazing. And then had my CT and CAT or MRIs on Halloween day, which was
Kind of funny.
It was cool. I was in an MRI machine like while Halloween was going on in the evening.
And you can come out of that and be wearing the robe and be like, I'm ready for Halloween.
Pretty much, right? I was just like flying down the hallway, glowing, and yeah, exactly. And then when I knew, it took a couple of weeks for them to, I think, go over those reports. I had to have another blood test just to check something else out, which was fine. I was kind of curious, so I, emailed the coordinator and she said, hey, we'll set up something with the hepatologist. So that's a doctor for livers. And he had a virtual meeting with me and just talked to the procedure and wanted to know if I had any questions. And I didn't really have any questions at that point. We'd already met with a surgeon who has done a number of these surgeries. I mean, he's an incredible surgeon, Dr. Ganik. And Rachna was there as well. And she had more questions than I did because she was concerned, like, am I going to die from this? Is there like big questions, right? And I mean, of course, there's always a risk. Like it's pretty low. I think it's about 1 in 1,000, which is not bad. And, I'm an optimist, so I figured I'll be fine. So I finally found out, actually, it was really cool. Justin and I had planned to meet. And we kept kind of pushing the meeting because we were getting busy and like on my side. And so we ended up meeting, which is perfect, at the Air and Space Museum here in DC, I believe on Tuesday, the week of Thanksgiving. Or yeah, it was Tuesday, I think, or Monday or Tuesday. It doesn't really matter. Anyway, we met, walked around in the museum, but we were just talking because we had so much in common. I mean, we have the same love and passion for aircraft. Justin's a super smart guy in so many ways, and just a joy to talk to. And it was like 3-4 hours of us just chatting. I could have been there all day. And then we parted ways. And the next day, they called me and said, okay, everything has been approved. How about January 13th? Does that date work? And I just turned to Rachna, who was right next to me, and I said, how about January 13th? And she said, as long as it's not Friday the 13th. And the coordinator heard that. She said, nope, it's Tuesday. And I was like, all right, let's do it. So that was that. I mean, it's a long process, I think, in terms of just the check. But, and really, I'll say this out. out there as well, everything is about, at least from the donor side, there is no pressure at all. I could have said no up to the point of like rolling into surgery, and they make sure that I knew that.
Well, that's
I
smart.
can back out at any time.
Yeah.
The surgery is considered an elective surgery, so they base it on my schedule. But for me, of course, I'm thinking about other stuff because Justin had just gotten a bout of cholangitis over the holidays, and I was just ready to do it. There's no point in delaying this. We had some stuff with a fire next to our house that happened.
Oh, yeah. I heard about that.
Which is crazy, right? But like that's just that's stuff, right? This is real life.
Yeah.
And I did not want to delay it another day because I wanted Justin to be as healthy as possible. Let's get this done so he can get his life back on track again physically.
Well, okay. So Justin, and of course Aaron, I think it's like 17,000, over 17,000, like 17,500 people are on the list. The reason why I asked that question originally was, how did you, and I don't mean this to be anything other than tell me how that happened, but if there's 17,500 people waiting on a list right now for a liver transplant, how did you manage to be able to knock this out of the park so quickly?
So there's two things that play. First off, there's diagnostic criteria that the doctors use to determine, do you need a liver transplant? Yes or no. And with the complications I started experiencing in March of 2025, by May of 2025, they came to me and said, hey, it's time to start thinking about transplant. So that was enough to start the process of doing all of my testing, like Aaron went through, to see, am I eligible to receive a liver? And the answer to that was yes. Once you are approved for the surgery, the next step is, okay, where is your priority amongst these 17,000 people? And they use what's called a model for end-stage liver disease, MELD score. It's a contentious issue, particularly with PSC, because PSC doesn't impact all of the variables that go into that score. Okay. PSC only impacts some of those variables. So knowing that, I had already selected a team that deals with my disease and deals with living donor. Once you're on the list to get a deceased donor, your MELD score has to be high enough.
Okay, makes sense.
But once you're on the list, if you find your own donor, or even in kidneys, they do paired and all kind of other things to find a donor. But if you find your own donor and you're on the list, you bypass the MELD score.
Okay, so basically that
was my option.
Right, a lot of people, which makes sense, they don't have anybody close to them, whatever the case may be, and so that's what becomes sort of a large master list. Let me ask you. Let's go right to the surgery. Is it how's it pronounced? Laparoscopic, or do they rip you open, Aaron, and go, oh, and you're sitting there going, oh my God, I can see my insides? How do they do it?
I mean, it's kind of funny, right? Because I knew that it's certainly not laparoscopic. They took 62.4% of my liver, and I know that was the amount because they scan it and they can see it three-dimensional, and they know, okay, that's how much it is, and then they can take it out and weigh it before transplanting it into Justin. But I knew.
Did you get a nice picture of it, and you could put up on your mantle?
Apparently, they don't have time to take a picture because
no.
And Justin could tell you what his liver looked like because they did take a picture of it, and that looked like a horror show. But they essentially cut. It's about 4 inches vertically under the sternum, and then 4 inches horizontally. Wow. And then that flap is open. And then I did not know this before the surgery. I found out about it afterwards. But they put this kind of looks like a torture device on there and just crank the ribs back. Yes. Because the liver is under the rib cage and they have to be able to access. So they go in there, they take a look at it visually. Hey, let's make sure this is right. It looks good. I believe they might take a biopsy and look at it real quick. But once they decide it's go, it's go. And so then they start removing that larger lobe, which is what you would put in an adult. You could take a smaller lobe if I was donating to a child, right?
The child.
Um,
Yeah.
and then they take the gallbladder out because the gallbladder is nested, I believe, behind that second lobe, and it would have nowhere to hang out. And
Right.
we don't need it anyway, so they just remove it, and then
Wow.
they take that liver out. In the meantime, they've been removing Justin's liver and preparing him, and I'll let him talk about that part because it's much more technical. Because once they take my liver out, they put it into a like it looks like a metal mixing bowl
Oh,
with some
sure.
ice under it and plastic, and they flush it with saline through the bile ducts and veins and arteries to clear out any possible blood clots. And then the doctor picks it up, and they have like a retinue of people following along, and they open the door and they take it across the hallway into the operating room where Justin is, all been prepared and had his liver removed, and it's ready to just stick it in there, and then do a lot more things because it's much more intensive for the donor in terms of the things they have to do. Because for me, then they just
Yeah,
pretty much like clean up, sew me
yeah.
up, and then I'm done.
No, you're done. I just want to know before you start answering, Justin. Aaron, in the bowl with the liver, did you see any Tonka trucks or any kind of Hot Wheels at all? Did they pull out anything extra?
There was like a small airplane
It's a
in
Hot
there
Wheel car from 1965.
and a Nintendo controller. So
Yeah, there you go.
quite a lot.
I don't doubt that one. I don't doubt that one. Yeah. Anyway, Justin, what's your take and experience with this whole thing?
It's quite different for the recipient. So my surgical scar is pretty much right underneath my rib cage diaphragm, the whole way left to around the side on the right. And then I've got about a 6 or 7 inch vertical scar where it looks like a big giant Mercedes.
Wow.
And they've got to do a bigger opening for me. This is where it gets a little bit nuanced between a deceased donor and a living donor. A deceased donor, they can harvest the entire liver and all the external blood vessels and bile ducts. So there's a lot more material to work with. And as you can imagine, the bile ducts and blood vessels are kind of like an upside down tree where the external parts are larger than the smaller branches left in the liver. So with a living donor, they only harvest part of that liver. So you're dealing with a lot smaller connections and you don't have any external material to work with. So part of the surgery for the recipient is they remove about 20 centimeters of my small intestine and they reroute it and they essentially create a new bile duct and they attach the liver to my intestinal segment. And then connecting the blood vessels, they're a lot smaller. So the recipient surgeon, I actually had 2 liver transplant surgeons simultaneously working on me. And the surgery took about, I think about 10 to 11 hours. So it's a lot longer and a lot more complicated of a surgery. But it went well. The team here did a wonderful job.
Aaron, how about you tell us again, after all was said and done and you wind up seeing him, I'm assuming you did, what was that like?
I mean, it's absolutely astonishing. For anyone who's had general anesthesia, um, we all know that you go to sleep and then you just wake up. And I was in recovery, and then I was transferred to ICU where we were for about 3 days. And that first day, it's just kind of, wow, I'm frazzled. But I kept asking, how's Justin doing? And, they said, hey, he's out of surgery now. So that's great. And of course, I'm hopped up on morphine and a lot of other painkillers and drugs and things like that. So I was just chatting up a storm, which is fun, and not feeling a lot of pain yet, except if I moved at all, then it was quite intense. So I just learned to not really move around and just hang out. What happened was the next day, they really want us walking as soon as possible. And I mean, I think women who've had a C-section know this, and anyone else who's had an abdominal surgery. we just got to start walking. We got to get the digestive system working and everything working. Um, so I was able to walk across the hallway with my walker and see Justin, and it's just an incredible experience. And I do not really know, even to this day, how to explain this idea that one of my organs was now inside of his body, and I assume it's a bit like what women might experience when they give birth because they've created a life with their body. Men, we don't experience that, but in this case, like this procedure allowed that. And when I heard that hey, the liver had taken and was functioning, that was, I know it's a huge deal for Justin and his wife, but for me, I was like, oh, thank God, right? I mean, this is no kidding. Like, I think this is going to work out because it's a very risky surgery for the recipient. And I was just overwhelmed with joy. And I will say, like, going through something like this, I knew it would be transformational in some way, but I just had no idea how much, how much positivity, how good I would feel, even to this moment now and going forward. I think it's absolutely remarkable.
Well, you do. I mean, let's be honest. Everybody is on social media in our world, and we can all say we're advocates for things, and that a lot of times that goes as far as someone's Instagram post. But when you're doing something that's as selfless as what you just did, you obviously, number one, will always have that feeling in your body that will basically be something that will be, it's like me getting my world records for being an Oppenheimer. I will always
Yeah.
say, oh my gosh, I did this and it was my movement that did this. But in your case, you basically saved someone's life. And by the way, I did get a picture of you on the operating table. I don't know if you saw that. Can you see that?
I can't see anything, but I'm sure it's probably pretty entertaining.
It's the operation game. Anyway,
Okay.
uh, I'm wondering when it's just you laid out like this. It looks
I
exactly
love it.
like you, kind of. But what I am curious about is that here we are now, and you. How long ago was this operation? Because you're still in the hospital recovering. How long? Number one, Aaron, were you in there? And number two, Justin, how long will you be in there?
Sure. So it was 4 weeks ago,
Okay.
and I spent, let's call it 8 nights. Well, it was 8 nights. So 8 nights in the hospital. So 3 nights in the ICU, and then moved down to the regular transplants floor. And that's pretty normal because it's a very long surgery. For me, it's about 6 to 7 hours. Justin, obviously, it's much longer, as you mentioned. It takes the body a while to wake up. Let's say, I mean, not conscious wise, but just digestive system to start working, bladder, like all that fun stuff. And I want to make sure that I was mobile enough and able to eat, um, able to pass everything through that needed to go. And that's one of the challenges that I was having. But I was able to leave after 9 days, which
Oh,
is actually when Justin was discharged. But he could tell you he's actually had to be back a couple of times. Um, so he hasn't been there this entire time, but
oh, okay.
it's pretty normal, I think, because there are complications for these things. So Justin, you can explain that part.
A little bit of a delay.
So I'd like to touch back on that initial wake up because it really was an emotional moment for I think both of us. So they kept me sedated for an extra day, and that was just standard procedure for the recipient. So he had already been up and walking by the time I was just waking up. And one of the first things that happened after I woke up was I see Aaron walking into the room. And first off, it's a massive relief to see, oh my God, my donor's doing good. Like you're worried about him.
Like I
Okay,
said,
he's
the
wow,
family thing, if you weren't doing well, yeah, it might be an issue. Anyway.
right. I would feel very guilty.
Yeah.
I really would. I was worried about him, but at the same time, like I cannot explain the burden that was lifted from my shoulders when I saw him and he came in and his liver is inside. He can be a future, and I can't tell you how nice that is not to have to worry. So it really is an emotional moment for all of us.
I, I would say, in this day and age, currently, having that kind of hope is something that is very hard to find, and belief and faith, regardless of what you believe in, and to have that happen,
Yeah,
I'm getting, chills thinking about it, because it is such a selfless act, Aaron, and I know
absolutely.
you're going to hear this a lot, but it's also, very brave of you, Justin, because you're dealing with something that you basically know is basically a ticking time bomb, and you're hoping,
Right.
and then to have that happen, and to have it honestly with that many donors waiting, 17,000 waiting for
Yeah.
a possible liver. I mean, hallelujah. With any way you want to say that, it
Right.
just means that it may reaffirm your faith in people, and that's a tough one nowadays.
Yeah. That that has been, we talk about in this day and age, and it's so easy to get trapped in the news, whatever side you're on.
Yeah.
And going through this process absolutely restores my faith in humanity.
Yeah.
I can't even begin to describe the number of selfless acts, not just from Aaron and Rachel and his family, but from neighbors, from friends, from coworkers from 30 years ago.
Wow.
The doctors, the nurses, the staff here at Georgetown. I mean, the transplant floor up here, they're absolutely wonderful in every way. And just seeing the amount of dedication it takes to get us both back up on our feet, it really is amazing to see that many people coming together to help.
Well, with
And
all
they're
due
still
respect,
out there.
yeah, with all due respect, I just want to make this very clear as well. Is just that, I'm a real big person with epigenetics. I can't say it, and a guy named Bruce Lipton, and all this new sort of science, not wooey science, coming out about, if you're in a good situation or in a good point in your life, it's healing as well. So now I imagine, even more than, I mean, of course, the surgery happened, you're healing, they're going to continue to monitor you, but the energy and the belief that you have now is a tremendous tool for the healing that you are going through, and I got to imagine it's going to be amazing.
It's a roller coaster ride. The first really about 3 to 6 months. Uh, I got discharged the same day as Aaron, but I've been back two more times. The first time, a little bit of acute rejection, which is very common.
I bet.
Getting the right level of immunosuppression is just as much art and science, and it just takes a little while to find the balance.
Right.
And then I came back for a little bit of an infection. And these types of complications they happen. You, as a recipient, you have to just realize that this first 6 months is going to have a lot of ups and downs.
Right.
But the net trend has been consistently up.
Good.
And there are so many little things where every day you see improvements if you're aware, if you're looking for all those little things. You don't get overwhelmed by a big step backwards when you realize, I had a big giant step backwards, but I also have 1,000 baby steps forward.
Well, more importantly, I mean, the difference between you and Aaron is that you are going to have, there are going to be things, but they've already, the technology and the people that you had left your hands, or liver, in charge of, that's obvious. I mean, when you're talking about a patient, you go, hey, you either have to get the heart or you die. And so they know that when they get that, male, female, whatever, the point is that there is an obvious sort of a process going. It might not, it might, and you're going to have these little things in there. But my question to you, Aaron, is, What's your after effect? Are you dealing with anything? Do you have to be concerned about anything? And I say this from the standpoint of that everybody should become a donor if they can, in some way, shape, and form. But with that being said, talk to us briefly about what have you experienced? Are you dealing with anything? Did they say you should be concerned? What's your thoughts?
Sure. So basically, I mean, it's much more straightforward for the donor. The biggest pieces, especially initially coming home, is just that incision that goes through the abdominal wall. So those muscles need to grow back, and it's all about learning to move without engaging the core. Um, I play a lot of tennis, and I've been working out a lot this last year, strengthening the core, and everything was engage the core constantly. So I had to kind of learn not to do that. Um,
Oh yeah,
and it's actually easier than you think once you get into the habit of it. Um, the other the other piece of it is just being very tired because they told me I'm going to be tired, and the number one thing they said, and everyone has said this, is just take it easy because this is going to take a while, and my body needs to heal, but it also needs to regenerate that liver. So I'm eating super healthy, but I'm eating a ton of food, and I feel like I can't eat enough and I can't sleep enough. So 1 o'clock in the afternoon rolls around, I take like a 3 hour nap, which is wild. I haven't done that in years. So um, for me, it's just a slow, steady march forward, and I feel better than I did a week ago. A week ago, I felt better than that week, and that's really it. It's just being patient and giving myself the freedom to not push myself. And I'm lucky I work for an employer that has short-term disability, so I have the room to do that without being stressed out.
right.
Uh, and I think Justin touched on it as well, like our community here in DC, among our neighbors and the parents at our elementary school, they have just stepped up massively to make us meals and help us in every way possible. And it's one of the like really incredible things about being a donor. Is, yes, it creates so much positivity for the recipient and their family, and for me as well, and even everyone that's in my family. I think that's been a part of this. But the ripple effects for everyone outside of that who get to be a part of this. I mean, it's incredible, like how much this has brought people together. Justin said he's talking to people from 30 years ago, and I'm doing that too, reconnecting. It's an inspiring thing.
Right.
And when you said everyone should be a donor, I feel like it's my mission now to let people know that if they want to be a hero and do something amazing, and they are capable of doing it physically,
Yeah.
this is possible. And it's a good reason to stay in shape and
Yeah.
be healthy because let's say you don't want to be a donor, but you end up in the hospital for some reason. Uh, it's so much better to start out at a
Of
higher health
course.
level. So
One thing that you're doing that really needs to be noted is, yeah, you need to relax and you need to take your time and ease into it and get your body back to the way it was. But and I know you well enough, kind of like me. We'd be swinging off of K2 mountains if we could. But and I always want to get back to work. But you gave
mhm,
part of your body. And so there is a mental, a physical, there's an emotional that you literally gave part of your body. So, the whole story is about someone has a car crash and they donate their heart to someone, and this is deeply emotional because the person that is there gets the person's heart and they say you're getting part of them. So really, I know you guys know this already, Justin and Aaron, is that you guys are really kind of brothers in a way now, because you more than typical brothers, like my brothers. I can't stand them anyway. But the point is that you're giving part of your body. I mean, it's in a way, and not in a drastic way. Like if someone loses a leg or something like that, there's the ghost pains, and there's because you lived with it, you've grown up with it. I mean, you're Aaron. What are you like, 35 or something? Uh,
Yeah, plus or minus.
yeah, something like that. But you were born with these items, and you're giving that to someone. It's not a light subject. You don't go, oh yeah, I got a couple of these. Here you go. Have a good day. Let's go to the bar. I mean, that's just not the way it works. So I imagine there's a very big emotional part to this as well as physical.
I mean, it's overwhelmingly positive, and it is emotional. For me to be able, I think of it as a blessing to be able to do this, to be able that I was healthy enough that I could give a part of my body to Justin so he can live.
Yeah.
He's a husband, a parent. Uh, so many people look up to him. An incredible guy.
Yeah.
And for me to, go through 3 or 4 months of recovery, whatever it takes, that's a pretty small price to pay for an entire life and
Yeah.
all of the great things that are going to come from that. And I would do this 10 times over. Seriously, like it's nothing to me to be able to know that this has happened, to go through that again. I mean, I would do it in a heartbeat. And
Justin, I just want to just because we're running a little out of time, but Justin, why don't you tell me or us and the audience your take on this? I mean, you said it, and you were very emotional when you said it for good reason, but you're getting someone else's a part of them, and I know that's got to be going through your head because you're laying in a hospital bed, or before this is happening, and when they said, "Hey, guess what? Yeah, that one ain't going to work. We need to get rid of it and get you a new one." I mean, closing us out, what's your mind, body, soul take on all this?
It was hard for me. I'm an active guy. I'm an Appalachian Trail through hiker and whatnot. It was hard for me to reconcile and to come to terms with the fact that I need a liver transplant. So I was in a little bit of a denial for a while. No, I'm healthy. But once I came to accept that I really do need a liver, uh, I accepted it. Aaron, I am forever thankful for his and his family's selflessness here. And he is now my flesh and blood brother as far as I'm concerned. Like there's just no doubt about that. We reconnected so well that day we met at the Air and Space Museum. Like we'd known each other, best friends forever. And this has only drawn us and our families closer together. So now we have an entire new arm of our family that didn't exist before any of this. So it really is a lifelong, deep emotional connection. I'll be forever grateful.
Awesome.
and
Well,
I'll
guys,
just add, like, I mean, I that's the greatest thing that's come out of this is I have another brother now, and Justin's wife Penny is just such a dear, and his 2 sons, and for me to have an extra family like this is it's an amazing thing to have, and I'm forever grateful for that as well.
so with that being said, between you two, is there anything that you two would like to tell each other? And I know darn well I'm opening up. Let me see if I can pass out the tissue papers, the Kleenex. But is there anything that you all, between you two, that you'd like to tell each other in regards to the process, how you feel? I mean, you've been saying that throughout this, but is there anything that you think that sticks out to you that is very important that you need to let everybody know about?
I just can't believe that somebody stepped up and did this. I was absolutely taken aback. This is not the way I expected it to play out, but wow, am I forever grateful. And like I said, I have a new brother now. I have a bright future ahead of me now, and all these things that I didn't have before this. So it's been nothing but a wonderful blessing for me and my entire family. And I have to acknowledge the role that caregivers give in this. When I came out of surgery, I was like a newborn baby for that first several days, 100% dependent on everybody around me to take care of me. And my wife, and boys and Rachna and so many families and so many people did nothing but support. And the amount of support we had on the outside and the dedication of the transplant team here, it really, it's worth mentioning that just as much as the donor, because had all those pieces not worked together, none of this would have played out the way it did. So I'm thankful.
Aaron?
I mean, it's the same for me. I mean, I would echo that sentiment about the caregivers. I think of it like, um, Neil Armstrong walked on the moon, and everyone knows that he did that. At least those who accept that. But um, he didn't build the rocket and fly that up there himself, right? I mean, there were thousands and thousands of incredibly dedicated people who poured all their energy into that happening. And as a donor, I feel the same way, where I was the vessel for this, but without Rachna just being there constantly, without the community, without these incredible professionals who pour all their energy into us prior to the surgery, during, and then after, um, it is awe-inspiring to see that. And to tell Justin, I mean, I think I've said it all before, but I mean, it's truly a gift to me to be able to give you your life back. Like, I will be forever grateful for that, because now I have you and your family in my life, and I can't think of anything that I would be less, like, could be more excited about, right? I mean, I can't wait to go hike the Appalachian Trail with you, and hang out with your boys, and watch our boys all get together, and it's going to be awesome.
I really appreciate the fact that you both brought the caregivers into the situation, because my analogy would be, it's a sports analogy. I mean, everybody knows that when the football player gets across the touchdown line, I'm not a big football person, but they do it and everybody goes, "Oh, you're awesome." They give them $20 million. But the reality is that it took everybody defensively, offensively, to be able to make sure, and they knew the plan. Because if you don't just go to Disneyland, and if you're in Iowa and go, "We're going to Disneyland," and getting in the car, you might actually map it out, and you know that you have to do certain things to be successful. And in this case, you are pointing out something very important for future donors and future people in your situation, is that they got this covered. I mean, and when you think about the caregivers, you also have to think about the fact that, because I was with a labor and delivery / a cardiac nurse for a long time, and they deal with this every day, and they don't get that outcome every day. They don't get the success rate that you are looking at right now. So I just got to say that, yes, it is with all due respect that you give the caregivers what they should, because they're a big part of the team. You two are the players, and you guys, you did great. You grabbed the ball, you ran, you got a touchdown. That's awesome. And you're kicking a field goal now. But the people behind the scenes are truly always, no matter what we do, we have to acknowledge them, because they do it in a selfless, like, I'm never going to be recognized. The person that gave the scalpel, and I'll never know who they are, but they are part of the team. And the team is so important, because, again, there's no I in team. Gentlemen, I really appreciate your time. I think this was an awesome conversation. Is there anybody or anywhere in particular that you would recommend they go to check out, maybe get on a list, or proceed with this conversation? Do we know? I
I
hear
mean, there are some.
someone searching.
Listing is done.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
No, please go ahead. I'm just trying to look
Searching.
So listing is done through a transplant center.
Okay.
So in our case, Georgetown, if you go to Georgetown's website, you can find a link to register to donate. And part of the thing is, it gives you the option to just donate to whoever needs it, or donate to a specific donor. That could be liver, that could be kidney. But every major hospital that does living donor will have some similar portal like that.
Great. Good. So to leave everybody on this, By the way, gentlemen, thank you very much. And definitely, this will be on our broadcast, and you can check it out. And please get interactive. Really ask questions. See what you can do to help people. Because in this day and age, I would say that community is probably one of the most important things, and quite honestly, might be one of the things that isn't quite hitting right now. And that is so important to help your neighbor in every way, shape, and form that you can. Because, yeah, Amazon can get you that cup of sugar quicker than your neighbor if they come over for it. But the reality is that they're not going to be there when you need to have a community, like when your house and the fire and the liver and all these different things. You have to depend on everybody that you're around. So, gentlemen, thank you very much for coming on the show.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah. And good luck,
Thank you,
Justin.
Bill. I appreciate you helping raise awareness. Thank you.
Absolutely. And Justin, good luck to you. I know you're going to be great. We'll check in later to see how things are going, but hang tight on the don't leave you two. I'm just going to close this out and I'll be right back. Hey, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for coming on to this show. And again, it's different than you normally would see, but this message is something that is universal. And really, it's not only about the fact that someone stepped up and made the choice mentally, physically, and emotionally to help out another person, but it's also something that is really kind of a little bit, in my opinion, the liver and how we take care of it and what we do when we don't do it. Because I'll be straight up front with you. I had a father or two that were very big alcoholics, and my mother's father passed away because of that, and my brother. And so the point is that take care of your body. I know it's easy to go get yourself a 99-cent Happy Meal, but in the end, I promise you, you're not going to be happy. So please try to take care of yourselves. Try to take care of your neighbors. And by the way, make sure you're in good with your family, because if you do need a transplant, you probably want to start with them. But if you're not really in good terms, you probably won't have that option. Ladies and gentlemen, please, please, please do anything you can. February 14th is Organ Donation Day, and it will be celebrated around the world. And it is something that you should actually put on your radar to be able to look at and maybe help a fellow person in any way, shape, and form. Thanks for coming on here and watching us, and we will see you next time.
If you'd like to learn more or are thinking about becoming a living liver donor, check out the Living Liver Foundation at livingliver.org. Also, Donate Life America has some great resources at donatelife.net. You can enter your name into the registration database to become a live organ donor at registerme.org, or go find a local organ donation organization near you at organdonor.gov.